righty, folks. Welcome to the Sports Kings NFL Weekly Prediction Show on YouTube.com. I am your host, Mean Gene, the Sports Machine. Tonight, we discuss two of the most interesting divisions in all of pro football, the NFC North and the NFC South. And he's here with us. He doesn't have to jump in because he got that computer restarted, right? I told him, leave that Macintosh stuff alone, man. Get you a Dell, and we all swell. All of the Kings are here tonight, and started with my man in Carolina and North Carolina. Hey, Dustin, I was there. I was there in Raleigh, Durham, and I told you I could not buy that Duke Blue Devils shirt. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, you came to North Carolina. You didn't let me know till you were already here. Jacob, what's up with that?
It was last minute.
Oh,
trust me, it was really last minute. It really was. I was on my way to Philadelphia, so that was a pit stop.
Okay, I'll let you slide this time.
All right. Jacob Meadows, the coach's quarters. He's ready to roll tonight. Oh, how convenient! You got your Texans jerseys in the background tonight.
Sure do. I was ready for preseason game one with Houston, but not the product that they could have scored 100 points, but it was exciting to get some Texans football for the first time in a couple months.
Let me ask you a question, Jacob. Did you bet on preseason?
I didn't. I'm not a good enough gambler. I'd lose all my money.
All right. I'm just checking, okay?
I don't know how people
All right, guys. Look here. Tonight, of course, while we're doing the show, I guess, 6 NFL preseason games, including what we had: Lions, Bengals, Packers, Steelers, Raiders, Cards, and I think the Titans and the 49ers are getting underway. So look here. It's the preseason, right? We got football, and I know some people don't get excited about it, Dustin, but for us, we have to be not so much excited, but we have to be prepared. It gets us ready for the regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for fans, and for us a little bit too, we have to dial in because we have this preseason. We need to see what's going on. But for fans, it's just like, man, we're glad to see football back on TV. We don't care what kind of football it is. Now, after that first quarter, a fan might be like, all right, you know what? I've got my fix. I can switch to TV for a little bit because I don't need to see these last 3 quarters of football because some of it can get pretty ugly. But it's good to see football on the TV. You got to do like we do, Gene. Like you got to have the multi TV setup. So when you have preseason
Absolutely.
on, and you that first quarter gets over, you throw it to the side, TV with no sound, where you could just glance at it, keep an eye on it. But I think everybody knows that when you've missed football for so long, as long as you can see any kind of football on your TV, it's good to see.
But you got to understand why me and Jacob are excited tonight, because my Steelers are playing and the Texans are playing, right, Jacob?
Yes, sir. It's our introduction to the season. Boys, we're getting to see a little bit of the depth.
Now, Gene, what do you have to be excited about? Because you're not really excited about the Steelers this year. So
I'm always going to be excited about the Steelers. Now, whether or not they will continue to excite me throughout the season, that's a whole different story. But
Drew Aller out here throwing touchdowns. So,
hey, tell me about it. I know. And look, I tell you what, some of the storylines from tonight, it's not just regular preseason. I mean, look, you got Fernando Mendoza, who is the overall #1 pick of the 2026 NFL draft. So he's out there. And of course, the Steelers quarterback situation, not that, we know Aaron Rodgers is the starter, but everyone needs to have a quality backup. So that's going to be their focus going into this season. And then, of course, how about Trey Lance is trying to get his way into a good position. And of course, Texas defense looked like they're in midseason form, right? They're already picking off the ball and all that stuff running around there, Jacob.
Gonna be the best defense in the NFL again. And Trey Lance is such an exciting story, right? Because he never should have gone in the first round at all. He was kind of ruined by the 49ers giving up.
It was an exciting story 3 years ago. That story has been long gone.
He had a great preseason last year.
And what did that lead to, Jake?
It led to him being a good backup quarterback in the National Football League, Dustin.
What my beef is tonight is we just said we want to see football on TV. And I know a lot of the preseason games are more for the local markets and they're on their local channels and things like that. But when you've got the #1 pick in Mendoza, making his debut tonight. Like, I'm turning that on even from North Carolina, expecting that to be an NFL Network game, ESPN game,
Yep.
I know.
and it's on the ESPN Unlimited plan that you got to pay extra for to see, because ESPN and NFL Network are now one, which is a weird thing that
Yeah,
to begin with.
I
So
know.
if you're the
Call it
NFL,
monopoly.
you would think you'd want to have that guy in his first snaps where everybody could see it. I think it's a miss by the NFL.
I think it is too. I mean, because they hype every damn thing up, right?
Yeah.
So how could you miss this?
Yeah.
Like you said, they both are owned by the same company now. So why wouldn't you be able to cover that? But you know what, guys? Look, last week we wrapped up the AFC. So make sure you go and check out our shows here on YouTube.com on our channel. So now we're stepping into the NFC. Tonight is the NFC South, NFC North. And Dustin, I was just telling Jacob, man, these schedules are some of the toughest schedules I have seen in years. And I know, and it's not so much, where you had a lousy worst place schedule. You still got a tough ass schedule coming in. There's no such thing as a cream cake schedule looking at these 2026 schedules, especially these two divisions.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that from the start. We're going to talk about the Panthers division. They're playing a first place schedule, but it's really not just because they're in first place. Like you said, all these teams have difficult schedules. And I think this has been a common theme in every division that we've mentioned. I think it just goes to show you the parity in the NFL, and that these schedules, there's no cakewalks each week, regardless. I know we were talking last week, and Jacob was on his soapbox about the Dolphins winning or Jets winning one game, but there's no cakewalks in the NFL. And these schedules, like, you got to bring it week in and week out, and with the injuries that are taking place in training camp, really, like, I don't think you can sit back and say there's going to be too many games that you'll be surprised if a team wins or loses, because I think most of these games are going to be competitive.
Most of them will be competitive. There are certainly some games where I'd be surprised if a specific team won, but they're going to be competitive. Right? I'm super down on the Jets, super down on the Dolphins, and super down on two of the teams we'll be covering tonight. But there's parity. We're looking at one of the most even playing fields in the NFL that we've seen in years, and I'm going to say that every year for the rest of the time we do this podcast. I feel like I say that every year, but it does feel like the parity actually gets better every year. Over the last decade, we've seen more super elite teams that were met in the hole by these bottom feeders, and now the bottom feeders, minus the Cleveland Browns, are rising, and it's going to be a great year of ball, boys.
Yeah, I believe you. I believe you. And look here, one thing in Jacob's defense, there, we're only picking division winners, okay, and I think we're not going to put all of this together until the week before the regular season starts. So next week, we cover the NFC East, NFC West, and then the week after that, we got our fantasy football draft. But that first week in September, that's when we'll put it all together. We'll take all of our division guys, and we will predict who is going to be playing at SoFi Stadium on Valentine's Day. Can you believe that? Valentine's Day, February 14, 2027. So we'll put it all together then, which I think makes a lot of sense there. So, all right. Hey, there you go. All right, Patrick Woodman. Yeah, it's always good to have some football back, right? There we go. So, guys, let me go ahead and do this right quick. So, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start with the NFC North tonight, because we know Dustin, who's wearing that Carolina Panthers shirt, your team is there in the NFC South. So that's going to be the second half of the show, because I know there's a lot of discussion there, and we might even have some arguments. There might be some furniture moving around on this show, because we're going to be in such disagreement with our NFC South pick. I already gave mine away to Jacob, but
I'm glad I didn't hear it.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, man. And I mean, look, we just do what we do here. So, all right. So look, we always like to kind of go back and talk about how these teams finish in 2025. So let's look at the as a matter of fact here, before we do all of that, guys, I gotta get better with the graphics here. As a matter of fact, I don't even have the graphics for the NFC Anyway, we're talking NFC.
It's the preseason. We're still getting.
I know. Well, you know what?
We're getting in our rhythm.
We're getting in our rhythm. I set the show up on one computer, and then now I'm doing it on a different one. That's what happens when you
after he hates on my.
But anyway,
I see that, Jacob.
I would tell you what happened in the NFC. Hey, look, I know. Look, okay, the Chicago Bears out of nowhere. Ben Johnson, first year with the Bears. Look what he did. He's able to get with Caleb Williams and make this guy an elite quarterback in the NFL. Bears won that division. They went 11-6. The Packers were 9-7. Okay, remember they had that magical playoff game there. The Vikings is, say what you will with whatever quarterback they had, they finished 9-8. And I think the disappointment, guys, Jacob, was those Detroit Lions who actually sort of did a first to worst type thing. They went 9-8.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so the Lions are going to be the enigma of this division, right? Because they lost Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. That was a massive blow all at once. Then they collapsed. So now we get year 2 of the new look Lions, and it could be a completely different game this time, or a completely different season this time.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it, but I'll go ahead and say I'll give it a little away here a little bit. I'm a little concerned about the Lions, but this division, you just called out those standings, Gene. All 4 teams with a winning record, right? I mean, it's one of the best divisions in football. These teams beat up on each other. The Bears, I think, to go 11-6, year 1 under Ben Johnson, I don't think you could have a more successful season, especially because it started off a little rocky and then they found their groove. I think Caleb Williams found his groove as far as, he was clutching some of these games. He still has to cut down on the turnovers a little bit here and there, but he showed the talent that he has. And Jacob just mentioned it. There's some intriguing storylines going into this year when you talk about Kyler Murray in Minnesota. You talk about, can Jordan Love bounce back? Can he be this top 10 quarterback again that we thought he's going to be? What will Dan Campbell do with it? I mean, there's just so many storylines. So this is one of the better divisions to talk about.
It is, guys. And, without any further ado, how about we just jump on in? And we're going to start with the Minnesota Vikings. And the reason why we're going to start with the Vikings is because the Vikings made it easy for us because Kevin O'Connell decided that he would name his starting quarterback for the season. As you know, they acquired Kyler Murray. He has, a 1-year contract, right? And J.J. McCarthy now is going to be the backup quarterback there. So, that was a bold decision, and I want to get you guys' thoughts on that. I have my own thoughts on this. Naming a quarterback before you even play a preseason game. So I don't know. And I heard what Kevin O'Connell had to say. Jacob, I mean, do you buy that? This was the guy that stood out, and maybe because he's just got more experience than J.J. McCarthy. What do you think?
So I think it's a little bit of both sides of the coin, right? I think part of it is I don't know if O'Connell believes in McCarthy, and it's one of those things where he showed a lot of grit last year. He showed a lot of talent too, but he showed a lot of work that needed to be done, a lot of development that he needed. So I just think that McCarthy kind of lost favor. So you bring in Murray, who's a tested veteran, right, coming out of Arizona, and despite the gaps in his game, you know exactly what you're going to get out of Kyler, right? Like he is capable of the moon and back. What you're going to get is not probably going to touch that, but I think Kyler's the more consistent starting option. So barring some sort of a freak injury or McCarthy just really dialing in this offseason and coming out in the reg looking better than he has in camp, then I think Kyler was the right choice. I think Kevin O'Connell ended up making the correct decision here. It just, I can't really attest to whether or not it's because McCarthy just wasn't it. I think Kyler's just, you can rely a little bit more on his skill set.
Well, before I answer that question for Jacob about does he believe in J.J. McCarthy, I'm looking at my screen in Mendoza. They showed a highlight of him throwing a 6-yard slant touchdown pass. So I don't know if that was his first one, but Mendoza with the TD pass for the Raiders. But look, let me get back into this because, Jacob, you asked, you don't know, it's both sides of the coin. Does he believe in McCarthy? The answer is hell no, he doesn't believe in McCarthy. If he believed in McCarthy they would have never brought somebody in like a Kyler Murray. If you bring somebody in to kind of push a J.J. McCarthy in his second or third year, whatever it may be when he was injured, you're talking of a, no offense to a Jacoby Brissett or somebody on a lower skill level that is a veteran that can maybe back him up and lead him. Kyler Murray, even though he's been hurt, is still in the prime of his career. Kyler Murray has still shown that before in his early years that he can be a Pro Bowl quarterback. Like, you don't bring in a guy like that if you believe in J.J. McCarthy. So that answered my question when he first walked in the door. So the fact that he announced this starter so early is not surprising to me. He didn't want J.J. McCarthy to be a starter. He wanted somebody else. He's got Kyler Murray. Now, Kyler Murray, the good news for J.J. McCarthy is we don't know if Kyler Murray can stay on the field. So J.J. McCarthy still may be out there playing. He needs to be ready to go. But the answer to that question is they 100% wanted to bring in a guy that they knew could play over J.J. McCarthy because they don't have that full belief in him. Did he show flashes? Yes, but I don't think they have that full belief that he is a franchise quarterback right now. So they went and got Kyler Murray, and that's why they announced it so early on before the games even started.
Here's my theory, guys. I think the one thing that scares me about bringing over Kyler Murray is you bring him over for 1 year. So if I'm J.J., McCarthy, I'm thinking, okay, I have longevity here. At least I signed for more than that, okay, because I was their draft pick, right? 1 year doesn't show me a whole lot. And Kyler Murray is just, man, I tell you, and nothing against short people. This guy is just not a big quarterback. And I'm sorry, and I've made jokes about the guy, but some of these things are just really legit, man. He has to probably go, Drew Brees is one thing. And Drew Brees defied the odds here, but we're talking Kyler Murray is shorter than Drew Brees, right? So I don't know. I'm thinking Kevin O'Connell played it safe because he's thinking like, look here, it's better to start with Murray and end with McCarthy than to start with McCarthy and end with Murray.
Yeah.
That's my whole take there. So you're right, Dustin. I think J.J. McCarthy will be on the field at some point in time. And, and this whole thing here just has me picking the Vikings to probably finish last in that division. It just depends on who we see more, Murray or – because somebody's going to have to get the damn ball to Jefferson.
Well,
and they know.
I'll go back and say this to Kyler Murray, to your point about Kyler Murray and him coming in on a 1-year deal. I hate to say this because he's only 29 years old, but as far as being a starter or a starting quarterback or close to a franchise quarterback, this is his last chance. You can't be in Arizona and have a $250 million contract, and they just washed out. They did the same thing that Denver did to Russell Westbrook. Props to Russell Westbrook. He just retired. To Russell Wilson. They did the same thing to him. They got rid of his contract with second year in, and they had all this money to pay Murray. He probably could have came back and played last year. They kept him out. So this is your chance to come and prove it. And you're not going to be in a better system or a better chance to reignite your career. Justin Jefferson, you just mentioned, Kevin O'Connell and what he does with this offense. They got other weapons around him. So this is it for Kyler Murray, and he couldn't be in a better spot. If he stays healthy, I'm pretty optimistic about what he can do. Now, the injuries is what scares me, but if he's on the field with this system and this offense, it's got me with a little bit of expectations for them. I'll go ahead and go out there and throw it. I haven't really glanced at their schedule, but I've got them finishing. I've got them finishing.
It's brutal.
I've got them finishing third in the division. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give them a 9-8 record. I think if Kyler Murray stays healthy, they will have a winning season. We'll see if 9-8 can compete for a wild card. But I think if he's healthy with those weapons with Justin Jefferson and Kevin O'Connell's scheme, that he can get the job done. And if he performs good, you mentioned that 1-year deal, Gene. He's only 29 and he's getting all that money from Arizona. I think Minnesota could find a way to keep him if he stays healthy and produces the right way. So 9-8. If Murray performs pretty high, and he's on the field, it could go to 10. I think they should be excited. What I worry about with the Vikings is almost not even Kyler Murray. It's their defense. They lost some people. They've got a lot of rookies, and they need to see how that defense responds. But I'll give them 9-8 and finishing third in the division.
The Los Angeles Dodgers need a shortstop, no pun intended.
Listen, as Bryce Young is my quarterback, I'm not going to take this slander, okay?
All right, Jacob, what you think? By the way, Jake, before you speak, I got them going 7-10.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. So, Dustin, I definitely leaned more your way. So I was pretty low on the Vikings. I'm not going to lie. Then I started to break down their actual schedule, right? And
Yeah.
Of all the teams that I've gone through so far, Minnesota has one that's closest to what I would call favorable. It is a tough schedule. They do play good teams, but I've got Minnesota going 10-7 and getting second place in the division after breaking through their schedule. Yeah, I have them tying for second place at 10-7. So it'll be this is an interesting season for me for the North.
Now, week 2 they play the Ravens, and they play week 3 they play the Broncos. Right? Am I
Yep.
right?
That is
you're looking at that. You're looking at that wrong. They open with the Packers at home, and then they go
the Packers. There you go.
And then at Chicago and at Tampa Bay, and then Dolphins and Saints, and then Colts. So they have a chance to get off to a pretty good start.
Okay, you're right about that. Okay, that was the preseason schedule. My bad. Okay, so you're right, Jacob. They do have the more favorable schedule of all the teams in that division. I would agree with you. So interesting stuff there.
Yeah,
so.
Patrick, I see your comment, and I will throw this back. I was going to say, was he a Michigan
no
fan?
mind.
Is that or Jay? Okay, Cleveland. Okay, because I will ask all of you on this show right now, if Kyler, and again, injuries aside, and listen, we're talking about Kyler Murray's injuries. How about JJ McCarthy? He doesn't stay healthy all the time, so let's not act like he's just some Iron Man. So if you have a healthy Kyler Murray and a healthy JJ McCarthy, tell me all three of us are not taking Kyler Murray over JJ McCarthy.
Everybody in the country should take Kyler over JJ McCarthy.
That's all I'm saying. Sorry, Patrick. I like you. I hope the Browns have a good year, but I can't buy that JJ McCarthy comment.
Stick with
it is what it is, guys. We're gonna see. I mean, when you give it, he's been given the helm, so we're gonna see. All right, let's look at the Green Bay Packers, who are always a consistent threat, guys. Jordan Love. He leads a steady contender playing an aggressive style, though the depth behind him at quarterback, I don't know who the backup quarterback is. Maybe Dustin. I know you keep up with this stuff. We know that Malik Willis is now the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. And I tell you what, man, the Packers have been consistent. Matt LaFleur has had this team consistent. And it looks like, Jordan Love might, he is the guy. He is the quarterback now.
The backup quarterback is Tyrod Taylor. So that's a decent backup.
Okay, so that's not bad.
And then you got Kyle McCord, who's behind him. So
okay, that's not bad. So, Jacob, I'd like to get your thoughts because the Green Bay Packers gave you fits last year.
They sure did. And I hope I'm right this year, but I don't know how to, I have no idea how to guess the Packers. There's no amount of analytics that I can put into this where I can confidently tell you one way or the other. However, I will say I think the Packers take a step back this year. I think that they lost some offensive firepower. And once more, right, bias. I don't believe in the Packers. I don't know how anybody could. I was kind of proven wrong last year, and then they trip up and they suck sometimes. So I have the Packers going 8-9 and finishing in 4th place in the North. I have the Packers taking quite the step back, and I think it's going to be due to the loss of offensive firepower. I don't think Jordan Love is the guy. He's good, and there's nobody better that you can replace him with. He's just not it. So I think the Packers take a step back. Micah's healthy too late in the season. Their defense isn't going to be what they need it to be because of that. Give me 8-9, 4th place in the division.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you actually kind of made some points to me that made me kind of rethink some things because – I kind of totally forgot about Jacob's, situation and him being arrested and what's going to happen there. And, he's a big part of running that ball. And then the question always comes to Jordan Love and his health. I mean, I know we talk about this with every team, guys, and injuries. It's going to be what we say, but it's just like he's been, I don't know if he's had a year where he hasn't had, some injuries and missed a couple of games here and there. And that's kind of how Malik Willis got his chance to shine a little bit and get his starting contract. So what can he do? Can Matthew Golden take that step to be like that next guy? You lose a guy like Dobbs. You give extensions to Reed and Watson. Watson's another guy who can't stay healthy. So Matthew Golden needs to take that step and show that he can be a top receiver because I think they drafted him to be a number 1. And so they need him to take that step. Tucker Kraft needs to come back from injury. Micah Parsons probably going to miss the first 4 games of the season. Not necessarily worried about that. As long as he can come back healthy and be there for the rest of the season, that's the big thing. I'm looking at their schedule, opening with the Vikings, then the Jets, the Falcons, and the Bucks. So again, a chance to get off to a good start because the back end of their schedule is rough. I will say this to Jacob's point. If somehow the Packers are below expectations this year, the hot seat might start getting warm for LaFleur in Green Bay because this is a city that expects to be winning the division, making deep playoff runs, and he came in with the bang and had them playing really well. But now they need to go out there and prove it. So, with all that said, I'm going to have them going 10-7. I think they will do enough to get second place in the division. I had the Vikings going 9-8. I'm going to go 10-7 for the Packers. I think Jordan Love's going to have a nice year. I think he's going to bounce back. He's going to stay fairly healthy. So I do expect some struggles. They may have some, up and downs throughout the season, but I think LaFleur knows he has to have a decent year and be there for a wild card spot. So I'll go 10-7 and finishing second in the division for the Green Bay Packers.
You guys remember when Micah Parsons went down, they didn't win another game.
Yeah.
And, rarely does one defensive player just really, I don't know if it just became, it was an emotional type thing. Yeah, I don't know. Someone else on that defense should have stepped up. They lost 4 games in a row to end the season. And that's something that you don't want. So, yeah, they got to figure something out, whether Parsons, whenever he comes back. I think he's scheduled to come back when they play the Cowboys, I think. But here's the thing, guys. I got them going 9-8. And I think they take a step back behind Detroit and the Bears. Okay. And you're right. Look, you let Ben Johnson just come in out of nowhere and get the Bears to the top like that. Yeah, you Matt LaFleur, man. You were looking pretty good. You had that hell of a playoff game years ago when you went in Dallas and beat the brakes off the Cowboys. And since then, but injuries did take a back seat. You got rid of your best backup quarterback. I don't know, man. If Jordan Love doesn't stay healthy, then they could be looking at finishing last place.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I worry about the Packers this year. I think they take a step back because I think Detroit is going to make a comeback. And look, somebody's got to finish third in that division, and I got the Packers. All right, guys. Are you ready for the Bears now, the Chicago Bears? High expectations around Caleb Williams and an explosive offense, though questions remain whether a bottom-tier defense from last year can get enough stops. So, Dustin, you want to start on this one? Because look, Ben Johnson did a remarkable thing. And, we talk a lot about you get the right coach and the right quarterback combination, like we saw with Reed and Mahomes. And I don't know, man. I just think Ben Johnson, this was the perfect team for him. And look, who throws a touchdown pass? What do they teach you in the NFL? When you go backwards, don't ever throw the damn ball up in the air. And Caleb Williams says, nah, dog, I got this.
Listen, I mean, their coach, you mentioned Ben Johnson. He's doubling down. I don't know if you heard the quotes that he has said in the preseason, and if not, I've got them right here. His quote is he wants the Bears to set the NFL scoring record in 2026. So for people that don't know, the Denver Broncos own that scoring record. And from a few years ago, I think it was one of the first years maybe Peyton got there. It was the 2013 Denver Broncos, and they scored 37.9 points per game. And Ben Johnson has said, our goal is to win the Super Bowl, and I want to have the highest scoring offense ever, which happens to be the 2013 Denver Broncos. I know how many points per game they scored, and I want to surpass them. I want shutouts, and I want blowouts. Wow. So for your head coach, listen, all the credit in the world to go out there and stand on business, and the locker room probably loves to hear that. Now, you're probably putting some really big pressure on your offense to go and produce, but I think he knows what he's got with Caleb Williams, and I think they are primed to have another good year. Luther Burden's banged up going into week 1. Adunze's coming off a foot injury, so you got to hope that those receivers are ready to go, especially since you got rid of a veteran like DJ Moore. Loveland, I think, should be ready for a breakout year as a tight end in year 2. And then you got to hope that defense improves. I'm a little worried about the running back situation again. I've never thought DeAndre Swift really is a number 1 guy. He had a good season last year, but, I wonder how he does this year. But I would expect Caleb Williams under this Ben Johnson system in year 2 and having this down more to take another step. So I have them winning this division. I've got them going, man, I want to say 12-5, but I'm going to go 11-6. I'm going to be a little more. That will still get them division because I had Green Bay at 10-7. I'm going to go 11-6. I think it could be 12-5 depending on how the schedule plays out. I've already got them starting 0-1 because they're opening up at Carolina, just to let you know. But other than that, I think they're going to have a good season. Caleb has a really good year. I don't think they set the scoring record. I don't want to let's not get out of control here, but they do win the NFC North for 2 years in a row. And if you win this division 2 years in a row after where the Bears have been, Ben Johnson's still a hero. So,
and I agree with most of what Dustin said. I don't have them winning the division. I have them tying for second at 10-7. I will say that. Okay. Caleb Williams, I think, is going to be a different player this year. So the leaps from year 0 to first year of Ben Johnson was huge, right? So it took a little time for him to get used to it. He got better. And I think this year we'll see the most polished Caleb Williams we've ever seen. They have a decent schedule. I'm worried about their defense. And like you said, Dustin, the running back situation. I also have never been a big fan of Swift. He looked fantastic last year. But I don't know.
You don't want Caleb to have to do it all. I mean,
no, you don't. He proved that last season. Right. Who is the Bears' backup running back? It's not the same like Munguehe guy.
It is. Is that I don't know how you say his name.
Manunga, right?
Yeah, Manunga.
There you go.
Yep.
He is not my style of running back, and I don't understand how he's good at football. He feels slow, he feels thunky, but he did look decent in spurts last season. So if he's trimmed down, he's gotten, maybe a little faster. I think that he's a great placement, and the run game will be okay. But Ben Johnson's a wizard, and I'm going to be quoted saying that about 37 more times this year, give or take. Ben Johnson's a wizard, and it'll only get better, right? I have them at 10-7. It wouldn't shock me if they won more games and win the division. Like you said, Dustin, after breaking down their schedule, if they do go 0-1 to start the season, I'll also give you that. I have that written down as well. But I think this is a good 10-7 year for Chicago. They'll get into the wild card and potentially blow out anybody there that they play, because Chicago is going to be better than what their record shows at the end of the regular season.
I will say real quick before Gene hops in, a big benefit to them is their last 3 games are against division opponents, and you get the Packers on Christmas Day at home, and then the following week you get the Lions at home. So you get those 2 you're probably battling with at home to end the season before you go to Minnesota. So that's a benefit to them.
One of the things we definitely have to take into consideration, guys, is that this division, just like always, they're going to beat up on each other, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they have to, because they have that many good teams. Even you can throw Minnesota into the mix. And just think about over the last few years, as we get deep in the playoffs, it seems like whoever represents the NFC in the Super Bowl, they have to go through the NFC North. I mean, it just seems like it's come down to that over the last couple of years, but yeah, I got the Bears going 12-5 in that division. I think, come on, man, Ben Johnson to say that, and you're right, Dustin, to not have DJ Moore. I mean, you're gonna have to find. They did draft some wide receivers in 2025, I think. So the tight ends, they got. I think they let Kmet go, right? But I think they picked up another one, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if Cole Kmet is still there. I know
he's still there, but he Kmet's still there. He was a trade candidate. They were maybe thinking of moving off of him, but so far.
Okay. So, man, you talking about that's one team that's got 2 of the best damn tight ends in football,
Yeah.
And they're young guys still. So I want to see. Look, man, if Ben Johnson is gonna, he's got the cojones to throw that out there, man. It's gonna be fun watching them try to do it, right? So
I just wonder. We know Ben Johnson's. We know Ben Johnson's offense is explosive, and I just wonder if year 1 that he kept. I mean, Caleb still had a really good year, but he kept the training wheels on a little bit as you get used to his system. Now it's year 2, and I think Ben Johnson's making those quotes because he just wants to let it all go now. Caleb's been in the system, let it go. Now, again, you don't want him to try to do too much, and because he's one of those guys that's a gunslinger and thinks he can make every throw, and you don't want him to turn the ball over. But I think year 2 in Ben's system, Ben's really going to be ready to open this offense up.
Open it up because he doesn't saw what he saw, right? So, all right, let's talk about the Detroit Lions. I was in Detroit for the first time ever last week, so that's kind of interesting. But look, I don't know what Dan Campbell's going to do. We all agreed last year that losing that offensive coordinator hurt them, and it did. Now, and I don't know. A lot of people out there still don't believe in Jared Goff. But, look, they got Jamar Gibbs. They still got some of the best there receivers and tight ends, Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta. They got a hell of a team. But Dustin, Jacob, look, man, their secondary is already banged up.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's going to be a tall order for them to go from last to first, which is what they're trying to do. I got them finishing second, though, because they got for their last place schedule, they were rewarded, so to speak. So they should win enough games to get to second place in that division. If Chicago don't screw it up altogether, then they win the division. But I got them going, what do my notes say here? I think I got them going 11-6.
Wow. Go ahead, Jacob. That's surprising to me. Go ahead.
All right. So, Gene, I also have Detroit going 11-6, but winning the division while doing so. This is the return of Detroit, right? This is also, so the way I look at it, this is Jared Goff's final year. It's not, but it's Jared Goff's final chance at a Super Bowl. And if Jared Goff falls short here, Detroit's going to start looking for a new quarterback. And the time of Jared Goff will finally be beyond us because he has never been the guy, no matter what team he's played for. I've never been high on Jared Goff, and that is not changing here. However, I do think that the offense played admirably well last year. The defense fell apart because they, 21 plus injuries on the defense for a second year in a row. And now we're going into this year, and it's going to be more of the same. And I think that they'll be candidates at the trade deadline. I think they'll end up having to pull secondary. There's no way they have the depth to survive. But I think that we're going to see more of like the Miami Dolphin turnaround here from last year. So Miami fielded a secondary full of players that were practice squad players on 30 other teams in the NFL. And by about week 6, Miami's defense figured it out. They could actually cover the pass, right? Like it was possible. Did they get beat? Yes. But it was possible. They were able to figure it out. I think we'll see something similar out of Detroit where you have a lot of guys that are not household names that are going to figure out how to play ball midseason and give Detroit a realistic shot at losing in the playoffs again. And if they don't do that, then Detroit, the sky's the limit if the stars align and the world is perfect for the Detroit Lions. But give me 11-6 and the division win here.
Yeah, okay. I could maybe have egg on my face for this because y'all both got them with a winning record. You've got them winning the division. I think, Gene, you had them with a winning record, possible wild card. I've got them finishing last in the division.
Again?
Again? I love Dan Campbell, Gene. You know it. We've been fans of Dan Campbell for years. Love the culture that he's brought to Detroit. I just don't think they have a complete team. There's a lot of holes that I worry about this team. Yeah, sound it because again, this is a bold prediction. This is a bold prediction. I have them going 8-9. So again, I have them right there at 500. I had other teams at 9-8. So I've got them, like Gene said, this division beating up on each other. I think the defense is not going to hold up. Jacob mentioned the injuries. Branch had an Achilles injury. He's coming back from that. He's one of their best defensive players. They lost Arnold because of all that mess, and now he's gone and signed with Seattle. So I just think, like you mentioned with the corner, and with Branch coming back at the safety, I just think there's a lot of holes on that defense. I'm not a huge fan of getting rid of Montgomery and giving it all to Gibbs. I think Gibbs is one of the could be the most. I think he could be the most. I think he could be the most talented back in the league, but he's also a smaller guy. And how does that workload? How does he handle that? So I worry about that. And the biggest thing for me is Jacob mentioned Jared Goff. To me, it's not even about Goff. It's about that offensive line. Ragnow retired. They went and they signed Cade Mays, who I'm very familiar with from Carolina, who was a starting center. He's out now, I think, for a long time. So their starting center is already out before the season starts. So I just don't like in this tough division. I just don't see it with all of those question marks. I could be proved wrong by Dan Campbell's culture, and they've won before, so they could bounce back. But I just think they're going to flirt right there around 500 and be 8-9. Injuries, offensive line, and Gibbs having to be the main guy. I just don't see it happening for him this year. Go ahead.
Before you go, Gene, their new backup running back is Isaiah Pacheco, who, albeit not as talented as David Montgomery, but as far as plugging the David Montgomery hole,
no, that is a huge downgrade.
Pacheco is a downgrade, but a similar styled player. He just happens to be worse. Jameer, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying they did bring in a veteran RB2.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I could be wrong, and Gibbs could run wild. You know how the running back situation works. He's a more shiftier, faster running back.
Right.
Him having to carry that load will be tough. Yeah.
When he was the primary Cal last year, he wore down and he stopped being effective.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Dustin? I mean, look, man. I forgot about the Montgomery thing.
Yeah.
And it's just so many changes there. Like I said, to start this off, people still don't believe in Jared Goff, which, man, the window of opportunity for these guys, man, losing Ben Johnson, then you get rid of one of your power 2 running backs there. I don't know. I got them finishing second place. I just think their schedule is somewhat favorable. When you look at everybody's schedule in that division, their schedule, because they finished last place last year, gives them somewhat of an edge to push them to the 11 wins that I got them going. But, man, if it all goes – it could go backwards too, though.
They end the season at Chicago, at Green Bay. So that's tough.
Yeah, I have them losing both of those, by the way.
Timothy agreeing with Jacob, saying that Pacheco isn't terrible. He can carry some of the load. I don't think he's one. I think he's not a terrible backup. I just think people forget that this isn't the Pacheco from 2 or 3 years ago. You know, he couldn't even get on the field. Kareem Hunt was taking over, and Kareem Hunt wasn't that great in Kansas City. So ever since Pacheco got hurt, he hasn't been the same guy. But as a backup, I guess you could have worse. So,
yeah, but you're right. He is no David Montgomery. All right, guys, we're gonna switch it over to the. We got another comment. I want to get that comment in there before we switch it over to the your favorite division.
This guy. I work with this guy. You can ignore him. I work with. That's how I know he's from Cleveland. How can you?
We don't ignore any comments on this show, man.
That's right.
We show it all. All right, let's look at the standings. How things finished in 2025 for the NFC South. Okay, it was not pretty, but look, someone had to win that division, and I'm not going to say that just someone, because the team that won that division, in my opinion, they earned that win. The Carolina Panthers won that division with an 8-9 record. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers tied with an 8-9 record. The Atlanta Falcons tied with an 8-9 record for third. And it was the Saints who finished last place with 6-11. And I tell you what, any of the three could have won that division between what Carolina did win, but Tampa and Atlanta was right there too. But, you know, look, things have changed in Atlanta, and it's going to be interesting to see what you guys think. And Dustin, we're going to start off with you first, because this is your division. And you know what? The NFC South, man, we have always had great talking points when it came to this division. I'd like to know who you think is going to win this division and why.
Yeah, listen, as a fan of the Carolina Panthers, but also as a guy who covers the league and a media guy, like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We've talked about the NFC North and some of these other divisions that are some of the best in football and beat up on each other. That's not the NFC South. It hasn't been for a few years. It has been one of the bottom divisions in the league, fully admitted. But, you know, the fact that the Panthers were able to get that even with the losing record was a huge step in the development of this organization and Dave Canales and Bryce Young. So I think this division is very interesting this year. I think you've got the Panthers who are taking those steps. You've got the Saints who are trying to build something. You got the people who have been the stalwarts like Tampa Bay trying to hang on, or is this time for a rebuild? And then you got the Falcons who just are trying anything at quarterback. So there's a lot of questions in this division, And once again, it's going to be one of those close races that probably comes down to the last week or two of the season. But there's some interesting storylines with Tua Tagovailoa coming over, Baker Mayfield and his situation down in Tampa, Tyler Shuck, his second year, Bryce Young going into a contract year before that fifth option. I mean, there's storylines all over the place in this division.
Jacob?
Yeah, so this is going to be one of my favorite divisions to watch this year, just because I think that we'll finally see a team take the helm, right? You know, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who won the division so many years in a row there for a bit, but it was never by a commanding lead, right? I think that there will be a genuine commanding lead in the division this year for the first time here in the South. And I think that we're going to see a little bit of positive movement in some directions, negative movement in others. But this is going to be one where you're going to probably almost have a second playoff team come out of it. And you're going to finally have a commanding lead for a division leader. And there will be playoff representation for the South for consistent years that isn't the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I think that this is going to be a good year for the South. I think they're going to be fun to watch. And I think that for the most part, there's going to be a good product on the field for the majority of the season for the entire division.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, tell you what. Let's start with the Atlanta Falcons. They have, just like the Minnesota Vikings that we talked about, with Murray and McCarthy, seems to be somewhat of a quarterback situation there in Atlanta. Not so much, whether it's going to be Tua or Micah Penix. It would not be Micah Penix. Okay, Micah Penix is, as far as the latest reports that I saw today, he is a month away, maybe even more from you can't even get him on the field. He's not practicing. You don't practice, you don't start unless your name is Matthew Stafford, right? So I mean, we figured that out last year, but Micah Penix is not a Matthew Stafford. Okay, so Tua is dealing with his own stuff. So I mean, look, Cooper Rush could be the starting quarterback come week one of the season. So I am not a Kevin Stefanski fan. It seems like he's always in a situation where he's deciding some quarterback's fate. But this year he may not get that. You might be starting the season without Tua, or I definitely know you're not going to be playing Micah Penix. So I don't know. I got the Falcons finishing 5-12. Kyle Pitts, who, let me tell you what, I was watching Greg Cosell, who is a guy who
love Greg Cosell.
I think the nephew of the late Howard Cosell.
Yeah.
This guy is spot on, man. He watches more game film than he watches the game itself. This guy, he mentioned on, I think it was the Ross Tucker show that I listened to today, that a former coach in the NFL referred to, and because he's worked with Kyle Pitts, he referred to him as being uninspired. That is something that you never want a coach to say. Hey, look here, we're fantasy football owners. Hell, we could have told him that years ago, right? Kyle Pitts he came out, man, just when his draft year, he was supposed to be the what. We've never seen
Brock Bowers. He's supposed to be exactly what Brock
Bowers is. Right. Yeah. So anyway, that's not good to hear, man, from a coach that has worked with you, saying you're uninspired. How the hell could you not be inspired to play? You're getting millions of dollars. So anyway, I don't know. I think Kevin Stefanski, I think his better days may have been in Cleveland. I give him that credit for getting the Baker Mayfield up and going. But I don't know, man. This is too much for him, I think, going into this first season here. I got them finishing 5-12, last place in the AFC South. I mean the NFC
Listen,
South.
I'm on the same page. I just don't think this is going to be. I think Stefanski's a decent coach. I just don't like the quarterback situation. I don't like what they kind of have going on. Their defense is going to be, honestly, I think their defense is going to be very, very, very bad. But Penix, you draft that guy in the top 10, you hoping he can be that guy. Hopefully he gets back. He's making these comments about how, I think he was interviewed with Cam Newton about how he feels good, but he still thinks about it in his head. And obviously all players do. They got to get over that mental hurdle. So that's going to be big for him. But then Tua, guys, when is the last time that Tua's been good at quarterback? even when he's healthy. It's been a while since we've been like Tua is, the Tua that we thought coming out of Alabama. And then you throw on the injury risk with that. I mean, if he goes down and then Penix is still not ready to come back, like you said, you're talking about Cooper Rush, props to them for paying their guys they needed to stay around in Bijan Robinson and Penix. And I was kind of surprised they gave Pitts that big contract, but I guess, you got to keep your tight end somehow. So, but their defense, guys, Jalen Walker, one of their best defensive linemen, out for the year with a torn ACL. James Pierce, one of their up-and-coming young defensive linemen, crazy arrest in the offseason. Who knows where he stands with his situation. Their defense, I just don't think I think it's going to be one of the bottom defenses in the league. And you couple that, they have weapons on offense. I like London. I like Bijan Robinson. But I just don't like the quarterback play, and especially with a coach coming in his first year trying to bring in his system. I think you're going to have a lot of struggles. So I've got them. I was nice, Gene. I gave them 6-11. I could see 5-12.
Okay.
I gave them 6-11. Maybe Bijan and London can make some plays for them, but they're going to have to outscore a lot of opponents because I think their defense is going to be one of the worst defenses in the NFL. So, what I say, 6-11, and I've got them as last place in the NFC South.
Those are good points, Dustin, and I do agree with most of them. It feels like I was a bit more critical of Atlanta than you two, which is strange considering the fact that I'm pretty sure I'm the biggest Stefanski fan of the three of us. Albeit he fumbled the Shadur thing in Cleveland, got himself fired. That's on him. That was a bad step. But overall, like grand scheme of things, Stefanski's not a bad coach, and I think Atlanta was a good landing spot for him. And quite frankly, outside of Harbaugh, he was the best hire Atlanta could have made. And now with that said, their secondary is decent, right? Their secondary is decent, and that is it. Their D-line is going to be dog water. They're not going to be able to stop the run. They're not going to be able to rush the quarterback. And now they do have the best running back in the league. And for all fantasy owners out there, right, I am not the most reliable fantasy advice guy, but I'm hammering Drake London. Tua Chunk. I think Drake London's going to have a great year. I think Tua is an upgrade over the product they had on the field last year. I think Tua is a product over Penix until Penix can prove that he can stay healthy. And I don't know, read an NFL defense because he also looked like dog water in his starts last season. He was a rookie, which happens, but
they had your cousin at quarterback last.
Yeah. I'm struggling with Atlanta, and this is kind of the same thing. The NFC North's the only one that I didn't have a pure just dump, and I've got Atlanta winning 2 games. I think Atlanta's going to win. I'm going to hammer. If I were in Vegas, I would bet the over and under for wins.
So season. Look here, Jacob. You know damn well
that if
Stefanski wins just 2 games, he's fired the first year.
Now I just want to throw it out there. I just want to throw it out there that that's the 3rd team that Jacob has winning 2 games or less. So he's got some pretty damn bad football teams in the NFL this year.
Dustin, I will give you one thing. I went through and I started printing so you can see my schedules. Like I'm printing the physical schedule to follow for accuracy.
Can you mail those to me?
I sure can. They're on NFL.com, dude. They're awesome. Printable schedule. But so like the Jets got an extra win, right? They're up to 3 for the year.
Oh, you see this?
He gets to clean it up.
I accounted for
when we make our final.
Okay. But they moved a game, right? I had 2 teams move a game. Everything else is spot on. I'm just following what I'm actually selecting. And Atlanta has a tough schedule for a bad team.
Yeah. Real quick before we move on, Gene, that schedule that Jacob just mentioned. This is the start of the season. It's at Pittsburgh. Then it's home against the Panthers, who I think we all agree is going to be decent. Then it's at Green Bay. Then it's at New Orleans. Then it's home against Baltimore. Then it's home against Chicago. Then it's home against the 49ers, and it's at Tampa Bay, and then the Bengals, the Chiefs, and the Vikings. Like, they have a brutal schedule.
It's going to be bad.
That's a hell of a schedule, man. That is a brutal schedule, brutal schedule. All right.
To throw it up, I have them beating Washington and Tampa Bay. There's your 2 wins.
Okay.
So, all right, guys. So here we go. Let's move it on to the Carolina Panthers, Dustin. The Panthers, they won that division. I guess it came down to, better wins. What were they division records? Because I think, like I said, everyone tied in that division.
I don't remember the division records, but I do remember that the funny thing about it is the way the Panthers got into the playoffs were they needed to beat the Bucs. They lost to the Bucs, and the only way that they could get in was if Atlanta beat Tampa Bay on the last week of the season, and Atlanta did it, and Carolina got it.
You're right, because even though there was a 3-way tie in that division, in the division they were all 3-3 except for no, I take that back. Every team in that division finished 3-3 in the division.
It was a lot of deep tiebreakers.
Crazy.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so that's what it came down to, the hell of a tiebreaker. But anyway, I mean, let's look at them now, because you got high expectations are on Bryce Young. I mean, his growth from the previous year, to last year was good. I mean, despite the record, you really had to watch the game. You had to watch him play to see how he matured. And I think, when they benched him and put the Red Rifle guy out there, that was a good thing. And everyone thought that was a disaster. Oh, this is the beginning of the end with this guy. Rarely do you see quarterbacks come back from that type of adversity. But look, Dustin, I'm gonna let you go first here. But look, man, because they won that division, their record doesn't get any better. They got a brutal schedule. So what say you about the Panthers?
Yeah, I mean they have a first place schedule, no doubt. Let me just start off by saying, a couple of things. There's a lot of good things in the offseason. I mean, first things first, when you mentioned Bryce Young and the development he took, the only game you need to watch is the game against the Rams in the playoffs. He went toe-to-toe with Matthew Stafford, went down, gave them the lead in the fourth quarter, and the defense couldn't hold it in that last drive of the game. Matthew Stafford, MVP, goes down and gets it done. I mean, it was one of the best performances of his career and should only take him into this year. And I know training camp is training camp and practice with not a lot of hitting and blah, blah, blah. Everybody that I've talked to that's inside, not homers, analysts that cover this team, say that he's having one of the best training camps that they've seen from a quarterback in a long, long time. Him and Tedero McMillan are absolutely dominating. Tedero McMillan had an Offensive Player of the Year campaign last year, and he's added 17 pounds of muscle, and they said he is dominating everybody off the line of scrimmage. So there is a lot of things to look at. I just mentioned the defense being shaky last year. They went and signed the two best defensive free agents on the market. Jalen Phillips from Philadelphia with a 4-year, $120 million deal. Devin Lloyd, the best linebacker on the market, 3 years, $45 million. They drafted Lee Hunter, a run-stuffing defensive lineman in the second round, to put next to Derek Brown, who we know is probably one of the best defensive tackles in the league. They did lose Nick Skorton, their edge, to an ACL, so that's a brutal injury. But they've got a lot of positive things going for them. They drafted a tackle who's going to start at right tackle right away because Taylor Moton's out, but he's looked good in camp. All signs point to this being another step for Bryce, and I think they haven't given him that contract yet. But I think they know if Bryce goes out and kind of does what he does and carries over from last year, that he is the long-term guy here. So all signs are pointing up. Obviously they lost Rico Dowdle. Chuba Hubbard's the guy. Jonathan Brooks is back from Texas finally after his ACL injury. They're expecting big things from him. And then they signed A.J. Dillon to be another kind of a short yardage back. So they've added the pieces. And then last night, Gene, I'm out with some friends, and I get this message that the Panthers have signed Darren Waller to a 1-year contract. So it's just another – Darren Waller's been injury prone, but he had 6 touchdowns last year. He is a red zone target for Bryce Young. So it's a brutal schedule because it's a first-place schedule. But one thing I want to throw out to y'all about the Carolina Panthers schedule, they have the shortest travel distance of any team in the 2026 NFL season. They have no West Coast games and no international games. The furthest they go to play a team is Minnesota. So, yes, that schedule is brutal, but the travel is very, very light. So they have to get off to a good start because the schedule is brutal for a first-place schedule. They open up with the Bears, which will be a very tough game. But then they have the Falcons, the Browns, and then the Lions on the first Sunday night game here in Carolina in over a decade. So that place is going to be buzzing. So they have to get off to a very good start, and I think they will. I'm not saying that they're going to light the world on fire after being 8-9, but I've got them taking another step, and I've got them going 10-7. So for everybody that thinks I'm a homer, 10-7 is only 2 more wins than what they were last year. But we've seen the South. 10 wins is enough to win this division. Yeah. So 10-7, and the Panthers win this division. I know I'm going to be called a homer, but it's not like I picked them to go 13-4. Like, I just see them continuing to take this step. And one last thing, the head coach Dave Canales has decided to hand the play calling off to Brad Idzik. And for me, I like when head coaches do that because he can now focus on more of his entire team than just the offense. I think that's going to help the offense and this whole team as well. So,
all right, Jacob.
Dustin, nobody should call you a homer for that pick. I also have Carolina going 10-7 this season. They're going to have the commanding lead in the division, and I have them going 4-1 in their first 5 games, which puts them at week 6 because they have a bye week in week 5. I have them beating
early bye. Yeah,
they beat Chicago, Atlanta, Cleveland, and Detroit bye week, and I have an L to Philly. Okay. And I think Carolina is going to have a good season, and as a first place team, I would say that they probably have the easiest first place schedule in the NFL. Yeah. And it looks bad on paper, but when you see where these matchups are at and where they fall into the year,
a lot of them are at home.
Correct. Carolina has a path to the playoffs that most other first place teams from last year won't be able to sniff. So 10-7 is a very critical schedule or win-loss prediction. I think they could easily surpass that. I have more of a homer pick than you do, Dustin. I think Carolina, the sky is the limit, right? If Bryce Young stays healthy and stays the course, Carolina is going to be an absolute threat in the NFC. They were the only team that could go toe-to-toe with the Rams last year. And now that the Rams got better, Carolina also got better. And I think that this will be one of the best products that Carolina puts on the field since my childhood.
Yeah. Yeah. And Gene, before you jump in, they do got to go to Philly and they do got to go to Green Bay. But a lot of their home games, as Jacob mentioned, they have the Denver Broncos, tough team, at home. They have Seattle at home, Cincinnati at home, Baltimore at home. So like a lot of these big games they're getting at home where they play a lot better football. So that definitely goes in their favor for that.
And I like that. I mean, you guys have brought some things to my attention that I wasn't sure. Look, it was tough for me to pick them and the Saints because I think the Saints going to be the surprise team. I'm on the Brian DeArdo bandwagon there. I think the Saints, and I'm seeing a lot of other journalists and media people are saying the Saints are going to be like a surprise team. But look, I got them going 9-8, and I'm okay with 10-7. I don't have a problem with that. I don't even have a problem with them winning the division. I just think the Saints it's just something about, I was high on Tyler Shough, right? And Kellen Moore in his second year. But look, man, I tell you what, I want to see those Panther fans like they were back in, what was it, Dustin, 2015? Was it with 15-1 team? Yeah. Because, I went to the Superdome to see the Panthers play Drew Brees and the Saints, and I got a chance to get in that Carolina Panthers locker room, and man, that's one of the most exciting teams that I've seen in a long time. I've always liked the Carolina Panthers, and I would love to see them win that division. But I got them finishing second place though.
And to your point, but with a winning record. To your point to that this is about the most exciting this fan base has been in a while. I think they can see it building. They had almost 50,000 at their fan fest last week. And I mentioned T-Mac as far as the receiver being number one. We didn't even mention a guy like Jalen Coker who went off against the Rams in the playoffs and got him a new contract. Like Bryce has got some weapons now, so this is, I think, the year for him to take a step.
And Jacob, you know the story, right? I met Dustin at a Carolina Panthers game. I'm running around the press box, not knowing what the hell to do, where to set, what to do. And Dustin tucked me underneath his wings, man. He said, "I got you, rookie."
That was good times.
That was a great experience, man. So I've been on that Panthers bandwagon ever since. But it's going to be interesting for this season. So, all right, how about we just get the Buccaneers out of the way?
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to say it like that, but they are the next team that we're going to talk about, right? The Buccaneers, man, they just look. They're not having a good training camp. Okay. Baker Mayfield was insulted with the contract extension that they offered him. And Vita Vea says, "Baker, they offered you what? Oh, hell no. I want out of here too." Right. So I don't know. This is not good for Todd Bowles. You cannot afford, and this is after you get rid of the franchise. Who thought that Mike Evans would ever part ways with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I interviewed Mike Evans on a Sports King show, a Super Bowl show. Yeah, at the Super Bowl. So this guy, man, I've never seen him smile. You could just he was just so excited, right? And to be a Super Bowl champion, you let this guy walk now. But anyway, the Buccaneers are in trouble. We have our girl, Dustin. I haven't talked to Sony yet. Yeah. She covered the Buccaneers for years for us. And I need to get with her. But I got the Buccaneers finishing, I believe, 7-10. I got them third place, just, right, not dead last, but almost. I just don't see any good things coming for the Buccaneers this year. And I don't know what's going on with Vita Vea. The GM says, hey, we're not trading him. So you're going to have to do something to make this guy happy. Yeah. But, man, this could be Todd Bowles on the hot seat.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Jacob.
This is a good year for them to fire Ryan Clark, because I'm going to have an unpopular opinion with this, but they should have canned Todd Bowles for Liam Cohen. That Liam Cohen should be in Tampa Bay. Todd Bowles should be gone. I think Todd Bowles has lost the locker room. So I don't think the players want to win for Todd Bowles. I think that they feel that they would have a better chance if Todd Bowles were out. Now, they may like him as a person. I have heard nothing but good remarks about Todd Bowles as a person. I love his pressers, kind of like Tomlin. He has good Mike Tomlinisms. But God bless. Like, he's not it anymore. He had a window. That window is closed. You don't lose your offensive and defensive team captain in one offseason and then come back and have this crazy turnaround, right? They were on the fringe last season, won some games they shouldn't have, lost some games they shouldn't have. I do not think that is the case. And Dustin, this one is for you. I have Tampa Bay winning 2 games this year.
Oh,
and
Lord.
After hold on, gentlemen. After my revisions due to divisional wins,
after your revision,
I have the Jets winning more games this season than Tampa Bay, and I actually think Tampa Bay is tied with Arizona for the worst team in the NFL. I think that they lost too much talent. I think that the coach has lost control of his team, and with pissing off Baker Mayfield and Vita Vea asking out, if they do win more than 2 games, it'll be early on, and I think that there will be some moves at the deadline. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have just now entered the rebuilding phase, and we're going to see a totally different Tampa team over the next 2 seasons, I think. And Tampa's going to be dog water this year. If I'm wrong about any of the other low winning teams, I'm happy to be wrong about them, but I think Tampa Bay is going to be at the bottom of the league. They'll have a top 4 pick this season.
Jacob, let me ask you this question, okay? Because look, Baker Mayfield is pissed off. Now, Baker Mayfield is determined to ball out this year. Mm-hmm. And if he does ball out, he's not going to sign with Tampa. He's balling out for his next team.
Correct. Contract.
Baker Mayfield is good for 3 wins by his damn self.
Rachaad White gone. Offensive line is very different from last year. You lose Mike Evans, which, albeit last year he was hurt, or the year before that he was hurt. They can win without Mike Evans. Chris Godwin, you cannot rely on him to be healthy. You have Emeka Egbuka and Egbuka, right? You have Bucky.
You got the running back.
Yeah. You have the Oregon kid. You have Bucky Irving, but beyond that, they lack true talent. And I will die on
7-10 ain't good enough for you, Jacob?
I think that's generous. They could win 4. They could win 4 if they got lucky a couple times.
I'm trying to go. I have to go back and do my research, but like, he's having multiple teams in the same division with only 2 wins. He did it last week and he's doing it this week. And you don't see that much. You normally see 1 team in a division that's like way at the bottom with a couple. You don't see 2 going like 2-15.
There's no way.
Jacob, listen, I 1,000,000% hope your Bucks prediction comes true, because if they win 2 games, I'll be sitting on this couch having the time of my life. Yeah. So listen, I mean, I'm not going to go that far as the 2 wins. I think we're all down on the Bucks. I think we can all see why. It's pretty much written out there in stone. The Vita Vea thing you mentioned, Gene, like, they say they're not trading him, but the agent came out and said, like, we're not budging. So, like, I think the only thing that could come to play is maybe you work out a 1-year deal where you pay him, but after that, I think he's pretty much gone. The one thing I will say, I do think Bowles is on the hot seat. I do think losing Mike Evans is tough when he's been a franchise guy. I know he's getting older. the one thing, Gene, that you mentioned, I will give credit for. I think Baker handled it the wrong way by calling out the organization publicly. Obviously, that's who Baker Mayfield is. He spits off at the mouth. But Baker does play better when he has a chip on his shoulder and he's pissed off. So he is going for that contract. Yeah. I personally think he's a little crazy not to take the $50 million a year. Like, I know he wants a longer deal, but Baker, let's not remember a few years ago you were almost out of the league. Yeah. Like, maybe take that $50 million a year and see if you can build off of it. Like, how much more do you think you're worth out there? I mean, you're not top dollar. So I kind of question that move a little bit, but he will play with a chip on his shoulder. I do have them taking a step back. I have them finishing third in the division. I can't see them being lower than the Falcons. I think the Falcons are going to be a mess with that defense. I'm giving them 7 wins. I'm going to give them 7-10, third in the division. I think Bowles does get fired, and I think they definitely will have to take a step back and do a reset. Jacob, I think you mentioned this earlier. They do have Ruben Bain, which is a nice pickup on defense, but I do think their defense will struggle a little bit. So 7-10, third in the division. But God, if Jacob's prediction comes right for 2 wins, I would love that.
Yeah, well, then, like I said, the Panthers are going to win probably 13 or 14.
Look at it like this. Right. Look at it from their schedule perspective. Right. I just talked about Carolina having an easy first place schedule. The first 9 weeks for Tampa Bay, the Bengals, the Browns, the Vikings, the Packers, the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Bears. There are 2 games out of those first 9 without a bye week that you can look at and realistically be like, I could see them winning that. And that would be the Cleveland Browns and the Atlanta Falcons.
But the only thing I will counter to that is if I'm going to say about the Panthers having a tough schedule by having a lot of big opponents at home, they have a lot of their big opponents at home.
Correct.
I mean, they have the Steelers at home. They have the Packers at home, the Chargers at home, the Rams at home. So if I'm going to say that about the Panthers, I have to call out for the Bucs as well.
But the Panthers have a defense. Name 2 people on Tampa Bay's defense now.
I just did. Vita Vea and Ruben Bain. That's all I got.
Yeah, Vita Vea and Ruben. Name one other one.
That's all I got.
Yeah, see, we just thought they were talking points. You can't because everybody else is defected. Everybody else has already left Tampa's defense. So the defense is my problem. Do I think I think Baker's a great quarterback.
Antoine Winfield. I knew that. It's coming to my head now.
Yeah, okay. But still,
that's it.
There are big gaps in that defense. It's to me, it's not about their ability to score points. I think Baker will keep them in games. I just think that if it comes down to their defense, Tampa's going to lose more games than they win in the crunch, and it has nothing to do with.
So who are the 2 games? Who are the 2 games they're going to win against?
Probably
they can beat the Falcons twice.
I have them splitting with the Saints and Falcons.
So you don't have them beating the Browns.
All right. Well, look here, Dustin.
Home.
No.
Okay. I got a pop quiz for you, Dustin. Who was the last team?
It's late, Gene. I don't know if I can do that.
No, you got this one. Who was the last team that said they wasn't going to trade their star player, and all of a sudden he was traded?
Oh, actually,
that happened last year.
Micah Parsons.
Exactly. So what do we care about?
And Myles Garrett. I mean, you can. I mean,
I mean, we've heard this before. I think. That's what Light said was basically what you're supposed to say. We haven't found a suitor yet, but give us time. We're not going to trade them. All right, guys. The last team here, the New Orleans Saints, the dark horse is what people are calling them. They have a new offensive mindset under the leadership of Kellen Moore, and they just Travis Etienne. Because it's not ETN, it's Etienne Jr. Now, we might have him on the show at some point because I know his grandfather.
Okay.
So we're gonna work that angle. If we don't get him if we don't come on the podcast, we're gonna get a recorded interview with him. We're gonna get something from him this year. But look, Kamara, man, just when you think this guy is done. I saw him. He just ran all over the Dallas Cowboys a couple of years ago. He just had one of his bigger games of his career almost. Kellen Moore, this stuff is coming together. So, who is his offensive coordinator? I want to say one name, but I think it would be the wrong name. You have Olave. They got him squared away. Cameron Jordan, when it looked like he was gonna leave and go test the free waters there. He didn't. He's back with the team. He's like the mayor of the city, so to
One
speak.
final season.
I got the Saints winning
Go ahead
the
and crown
division.
them, Gene. Go ahead, crown them.
No, I'm not crowning them. I'm just look here. I got them with a 10-7 record. Okay, that's just one game better than the Panthers, and it could flip flop. But look, I think they are going to be the surprise team. Look, I mean, come on. When we have a division that finished as bad as they did, hell, it's almost a toss-up with the exception of the Falcons. I think they're going to be okay. I think the Saints are going to be okay. I think they're going to be inspired. Hey, who that? They just sent their boy to the Hall of Fame. We got Drew Brees to go down there and rah, get the troops up. But no, I like Kellen Moore. I think he's a good offensive mind. Now he's the head guy. I got the Saints going 10-7 and winning that division.
Well, the offensive coordinator is Doug Nussmeier, so that's just to throw that out there to you. You mentioned Cam Jordan. He's coming back, he said, for one final season, so one last run. Listen, I'm sitting here joking up to you about him crowning. I do think they're going to be an improved team. I do think Tyler Shuck, getting into year 2.
Oh, yeah.
I think adding, ETN was huge because I said Kamara, he doesn't need to be the main guy anymore when you have that. I love having combos at running back. I just think that's the way to go now in this league, unless you have just that top dog. But so I like that. You lock Olave up. I like the pick of Jordan Tyson, although he just went out with a hamstring injury, and those can be a little iffy. And he also had a lot of injury problems in college, and they're relying on him to be that guy besides Olave. So I think Shuck will be better. I've said this over and over on this show. I always worry about year 2 quarterbacks. Like, do they take a little step back in that second year slump? Not to mean they're going to be bad, but we've seen it with even better guys than Chuck. We've seen it with Stroud. We've seen it with Daniels. I mean, I just wonder, Kellen Moore is a good offensive mind, but how now that they've got tape on Chuck and he's not just a guy coming in from the bench and being kind of the guy who's ready to go, like, how will he do? Really, it's not the offense for me for New Orleans. It's the defense. I just don't think their defense is going to be any good.
Okay.
If their defensive ends are Cam Jordan, who, don't get me wrong, has been a great player, but he's getting on the downside of his career. If their starters are Cam Jordan and Chase Young, who has been injury prone, I don't think that's a great duo in my eyes. And I don't think I'll probably throw the same question out to Jacob that he threw out to me. Besides those 2 guys, how many more guys can you name on the Saints defense? And I don't think it will be many. So I think that is where their problem will be. I think they'll be better. I'm giving them a winning record, which is a step for them, because what were they, 6-11 last year? So I've got them going to 9-8. I've got them going as a 3-win improvement. So I've got them finishing second in the division behind Carolina. I do think it will be a battle to the end because that's how this division goes. But I just don't think their defense is enough to get there. It's funny. They're kind of on the same trajectory as the Panthers were. You take that step, you improve some wins. The playoffs, then you barely get in. I think this is the year they take the step to 9-8, and then if they can keep putting pieces together on defense, then maybe they take that step to even compete for the division more. So I like the direction they're going, and I just don't think they're there yet to be a division-winning team.
That was almost exactly what I had planned out. So I'm pretty much right there with you. The only difference being I have them going 8-9 as opposed to 9-8. I have the Saints going 8-9. I believe in the Shuck Show. I do. It's not the offense, it's the defense. And I have them going 8-9 until they can load up on the defense next year. And I think the product will be better. They'll have 9-10 wins, assuming that everything else goes smoothly. But I do have the Saints finishing 8-9. I think that it's going to be a fun year. And they're the first team that I have a week circled on the calendar because I've through 4 divisions now of doing the printouts so that I can actually track my wins and losses accurately. Week 6 against the New York Giants. That was the hardest game for me to predict a win-loss for, and I think it will probably be one of the better Week 6 matchups because if everybody is healthy, because you get the Jackson Dart Scatterboo offense with the Giants, and then you get the lackluster defense and the Shuck Show with the Saints. And I think that that's going to just be a beat-down brawl-out with a final score of like 37-34, and it's going to be exciting to watch. But Saints go 8-9, second place in the division, barely miss a wild card.
They got the Bengals and the Packers too, right?
The start of their schedule is very interesting because I don't think you can have a harder first 2 weeks. You go at Detroit, and then you go at Baltimore, and you're like, damn, that's 2 hard games on the road out of the gate. But then you come home for 3 in a row. You have the Raiders, who we think will be a little better. You have the Falcons and you have the Vikings. You're going to have to at least go 2-1 in that 3-game stretch after coming off of 2 road games against the Lions and the Ravens. So, and that's the thing for a lot of these teams, Jeans. It's what kind of start can you get off of and build the momentum? Because sometimes you get off to that bad
start, man.
Sometimes you get off to a bad start and
right.
you can't find it. So it'll be interesting to see how they start out the gates.
Well, just ask the Bengals with no defense, right, over the last couple of years, how getting off to a bad start, not having a defense, that's one thing to put up, 31 points a game, but your defense gives up 32, and that's what we saw from the Bengals. So, look, guys, hey, that wraps up the NFC South and the NFC North. And, man, we're moving right along here. So next week is going to be interesting show. So it's going to be it's going to be interesting for 2 things, because we have the famous author Larry Schechter. He's going to, and I hope I ain't butchering this name. We'll get it right before he comes on. He is the author of The History of Fantasy Sports and the Stories of the People Who Made It Happen. And this is really appropriate for us, because a week after that, we're going to do our fantasy football draft. But this guy is one of the pioneers of starting fantasy sports as we know it today. So I cannot wait. We all got a copy of his book. So, he's going to expect us to be ready for him, right? He's a talker. So we're going to get him in there. And we also are going to cover the NFC East and the NFC West. That will wrap up everything, okay? And it's going to be our final division, predictions for 2026. And, man, guys, another great show, guys. And Jacob, I have to say this to you as it relates to your 2 and 15 pick for the Falcons. You do know by giving them just 2 wins, you automatically are putting them on the clock for the draft, right?
Oh, I do.
I think we need to buy him a 2 and 15 T-shirt, because that's his record for about half the league.
It's a quarter.
Because the Saints is the one. I mean, the Falcons is one team you do not want them to. With the team they got now, and if they go 2 and 15 and they get the number 1 pick next year, you won't be saying that going into next year, because they would be. I don't think they're going to be that bad.
The Falcons can bring the most chaos to the draft if they have a top pick, because you have no idea what direction they're going to go. Should they go quarterback? Probably, but there are 9 other positions that they could fill talent-wise that would make equally as much sense as quarterback would with 2 under contract if he plays well. So I think Atlanta only winning 2 games is best case for the fans, because then you'll get chaos.
Well, they're sure going to get a quarterback if they go 2 and 15. I can guarantee you that, right?
Yeah. Hey, listen, I just want to end the show shouting out our viewers, our listeners, subscribers. Like, appreciate all the support. We are well over 4,000 subscribers now. I think we're pushing right towards 5,000. Get that word out, guys. If we can get to, I think our goal is to get to 10,000 before the season starts. We're just getting into the preseason, so I think we definitely can hit that. But the comments, the support, Gene, we don't say it enough. The support has just been amazing for the show. So I just wanted to say thanks.
It has been. And look, we're we took a break. I mean, we're not on every day like some of your other podcasts and stuff. We all got other things that we have going on in our lives. But man, just imagine if we were a daily show, and this is like from August. We started. Oh, happy 1 year on YouTube, by the way. We started
absolutely
this time last year. So great stuff. So I got to give my sister a happy birthday. She turned 66 today.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
My older sister. This is the one that keeps me, you know how your baby sister somehow thinks she's your mom too. That's the sister I have. So I get away with nothing with her. So happy birthday. So anyway,
we need to send her Jacob's way and put Jacob in check. So
I put Jacob in his place. Hey, enjoy preseason football this weekend, and we'll see you back here next week on the Sports Kings NFL Weekly Prediction Show. So all you fantasy football people, chime in. We're gonna have Larry on in the first part of the show so we can focus on that, and then we do our NFC East, NFC West. So that should be a great show, guys. Hey guys, enjoy the week. Oh, and you know what, Jacob, you missed. We had a conversation between me, Dustin, and downtown Wayne Brown. We was talking about Dustin's son, Blake, right? And look, we and he's a good baseball player, right? So we already Wayne already has him as the number 1 pick in the 2036 draft going to the Dodgers.
Oh my goodness. That's the first time I'll ever wear a Dodger shirt, Jacob. So
yeah, I feel that you have to.
And look, if that happens, I hope to God that I can be at that draft, because I would be on the front row if
you will be there.
If that happens. All right, guys. Good night. We'll see you back here next week on the Sports Kings NFL Weekly Prediction Show. Have a good one.